Lekin never came home smelling of his wife's perfume. It was always something else. Vanilla from a stranger's lotion, sweat from a club backroom, lipstick he didn't bother to wipe away. Lagos moved fast, and so did he. The city fed him. Lights that never slept, women who whispered promises that made his blood hum. Tola used to wait up, her hair tied, food cold on the table. She told herself love could reform a man, that maybe if she pleased him enough he'd remember she existed. When he pulled her into bed at dawn, it wasn't tenderness. It was proof of ownership. He'd close his eyes before she even touched him. Her friends warned her. "He's burning you, Tola. Don't keep giving yourself to a man who returns with shadows." But she only smiled. "He's my husband." So she stayed, trusting vows more than her instincts, trusting skin more than silence. Weeks later, when the fever came, she still tried to cook for him. The clinic's white walls told the truth she had refused to see. An infection from his wandering. Her chest tightened not from illness but from shame. She had guarded him more than herself. Lekin noticed only that she had stopped reaching for him. No more kisses at the door, no soft body waiting in bed. The silence in their flat grew heavier than their arguments. He called it moodiness. She called it dying slowly beside the man she loved. By the time he realized she was slipping away, she had already learned to sleep facing the wall. He still went out, chasing warmth in other beds. He told himself he was searching for a thrill, but really, he was running from the emptiness he'd built. On a humid Thursday night, after another meaningless encounter, he stared at his reflection in a hotel mirror. For a moment he saw what the city saw, a rich man, confident, desired. But beneath the sheen was hollowness, and even he could taste it. Outside, Lagos roared, cars, horns, laughter spilling from bars. Somewhere in that noise waited the next body, the next distraction, the next woman who would make him forget the last. And among them, fate was already setting the stage for his ruin. Lekin met Catherine on a night that smelled of rain and sin. He'd followed the sound of slow jazz into a private club in Lekki, the kind of place where rules melted and money decided who mattered. The air shimmered with perfume and temptation. Then she walked in. Catherine wasn't the prettiest woman in the room. She was the most present. Every step of hers made men forget their drinks. Her waist rolled like rhythm itself. When her eyes met his, something in him, the restless, greedy part, sighed in recognition. She didn't ask his name. She read it off the watch on his wrist. "Mr. Grayson," she teased. "You wear success like a cologne. And you wear danger like a dress," he replied. They talked in half-truths. She told him she was in hospitality. He said he was in construction. Both knew the lies were foreplay. By midnight, she led him to a dimly lit room upstairs, the walls draped in red silk. The air was thick with incense and something more. Promise. Catherine moved like she'd studied desire and learned how to weaponize it. She didn't rush him. She tested his limits, guided his hunger, made him believe surrender was his idea. When she whispered, "You don't need to pretend to be in control here," he felt both insulted and liberated. Hours blurred into a haze of heavy breathing and soft laughter. When he left, she didn't ask for his number. She only said, "If you come back, bring honesty. It's rarer than cash." And he did come back. The next night. And the one after that. Soon she was the only place he could feel alive. Her flat in Surulere became his secret church. She taught him games that fed his ego, worship that disguised itself as lust. He'd never known a woman who could study him like a blueprint and rebuild him in her image. He started sleeping less, eating less, thinking less. His phone stayed silent when his wife called. Every message from Tola felt like a ghost tapping on a locked door. Catherine didn't ask about her. She didn't have to. She already knew she was winning. And when he whispered, "You make me feel like I can't stop," she smiled, tracing his jaw with a fingertip. "Good," she said. "Because you won't." Catherine had been in the game since she was 16, long enough to learn that desire paid well but aged faster than beauty. Now, past 30 and still breathtaking, she was ready to quit. She wanted her own apartment, morning peace, a man she could call hers. On a slow afternoon at the lounge, her friends teased her between drinks. "You retire." One laughed. "Men like ours don't marry women like us." Another snapped her gum. "Better save your dreams for church." Catherine only smiled. "Nothing is impossible," she said, swirling her wine. "I just need a man who thinks he's the hunter." She'd already chosen the type. Someone wealthy, proud, addicted to control. The kind she could bend without him noticing the leash. When Lekin started showing up, all restless charm and hungry eyes, she saw the sign she'd been waiting for. Still, she wanted insurance. She went to the spiritualist in Makoko, a woman whispered about by girls who wanted customers to stay faithful. The air inside the hut smelled of river mud and incense. "You want love?" the old woman asked. "I want obedience," Catherine said. The woman studied her face and tied red and black beads around her wrist first, testing her courage. "This waist bead will bind whoever shares your bed. He will serve, provide, obey. But remember, what bends too long will break." Catherine laughed softly. "Then I'll stop before it breaks." That night, she prepared her flat as if welcoming destiny. Candles, silk, and the new beads glinting against her skin. When Lekin arrived, she let him see the shimmer. "What's that?" he asked. "My retirement plan," she said, half smiling. He thought she was joking until she touched his hand. A rush passed through him, sharp and sweet. The room seemed to tilt toward her. Every word she spoke lodged in his chest like command. By morning he was dazed, already asking when he could see her again. "Tomorrow," she whispered, kissing his forehead. "And every day after." Downstairs, her friends watched him leave, wide-eyed. Catherine turned to them with a slow, victorious grin. "Didn't I tell you?" she said. "Nothing is impossible." The morning after the spell, Lekin woke with Catherine's scent in his lungs and her voice echoing inside his head. Every thought bent toward her. What she wanted, what would make her smile again. He still wore his wedding ring, but it felt like a chain attached to the wrong person. When she told him, "You need to end what you started at home," the words settled in him like law. "You mean my marriage?" She leaned close, tracing a finger over the ring. "Your wife deserves a man who still remembers her. That isn't you." That evening he went home. Tola was folding laundry. The television hummed low. "I think we should end this," he said flatly. Her hands froze around a shirt. "End what, Lekin?" "The marriage. It's better for both of us." She stared at him, searching for a trace of the man she once knew. "There's someone else, isn't there?" He didn't answer, and the silence told her everything. Tears blurred her eyes as she packed a small bag. Just clothes, her Bible, the last photograph of them smiling. "You've infected my body, now you want to infect my peace," she whispered. He tried to speak, but the spell twisted his tongue into obedience. She left before dawn, the door closing like a final prayer. Within a week he'd moved into Catherine's flat. She greeted him barefoot, laughter soft, candles burning in daylight. For a while it felt like paradise. They cooked together, watched films, spoke in whispers that pretended to be love. She told her friends, "I've retired. No more night jobs, my man provides." They laughed but envied her. Money flowed easily at first. Lekin paid her rent a year ahead, replaced her worn curtains with velvet, stocked her wardrobe with silks. She stopped going out after dark. She didn't need to. The city that once feared her name now forgot it. But the comfort turned lazy. Lekin skipped meetings, ignored calls, sold one car, then another. The company's accounts thinned while Catherine's appetite grew. "Sell that empty house," she said one afternoon, sipping juice. "It reminds you of her." He did, signing the papers with a smile. Months passed, and Catherine's bank alerts grew quieter. Without clients, her savings sank. She told herself it was temporary. He'd find new deals soon, but the more she pushed, the more docile he became. He cooked, cleaned, adored, obeyed. She had dreamed of control. Now she had a servant. One evening she found him ironing her dresses while humming. The sight made her chest tighten with something between victory and disgust. "What happened to you?" she muttered. He looked up, eyes soft. "You happened to me." That night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan turning like a slow curse. She had everything she'd asked for: power, devotion, silence. Yet the room felt emptier than ever. Outside, Lagos pulsed with life, but inside, their empire was already crumbling. At first, Catherine thought happiness would stretch forever. She'd wake to the smell of food Lekan cooked, to the sound of him humming her name as if it were prayer. He had become her routine, her mirror, her slave, and for a while she adored it. But power is a restless companion. The thrill faded faster than she imagined. His obedience, once intoxicating, now irritated her. The same man who had once commanded boardrooms now waited for her permission to breathe. When he tried to hold her, she pushed him off with a careless hand. "Go wash the dishes," she said one night. He obeyed instantly, smiling as if she'd just kissed him. She leaned on the balcony, staring down at the Lagos traffic below. Somewhere in that noise were women like she used to be. Laughing, earning, alive. She had left the streets, but the hunger to matter still gnawed inside her. Her savings were nearly gone. No clients, no business. The rent date loomed closer, and Lekan's account balance shrank to whispers. "You'll find something soon," she told him sharply. "Yes," he said gently. "Whatever you want." It was that tone, soft, submissive, that made her want to scream. By the second month, she started going out again, pretending it was to meet a friend. The first man she saw after weeks of isolation looked at her the way Lekan once did. Eyes wide, hungry, afraid. She liked that. She missed being the storm instead of the calm. When she came home late that night, Lekan was waiting by the door. "Where were you?" he asked quietly. "Out." "With who?" He smirked. "Don't start acting like the husband you abandoned." He looked down. "I only asked because I worry." "Then stop worrying and do the laundry," she snapped. Days turned to weeks. Her phone began to buzz again. Old clients resurfacing, new offers whispering temptation. She didn't accept most of them, only enough to remind herself she still had power. But the curse had shifted. The waist beads, once warm with magic, now felt cold against her skin, heavy as guilt. When she looked at Lekan, she saw not a lover but a reflection of her own greed. He was the proof of everything she'd destroyed to prove herself right. One morning she watched him sleeping on the couch, thin and tired. His once polished skin dulled by exhaustion. She felt nothing, no pity, no love, no victory. Only emptiness. "I didn't bargain for this kind of marriage," she muttered aloud. He stirred but didn't wake. "You can't take care of me. Less money means less satisfaction," she whispered to herself. By evening, she had packed his clothes into a single bag. When he came from the kitchen, she didn't even look at him. "Leave, Lekan. This marriage is over." He stood frozen. "Catherine, don't say my name. Just go." He left quietly, the door closing behind him with the weight of a curse fulfilled. Every dawn began with the same sound. Knocking. Soft at first, then desperate. "Please, Catherine," he would whisper through the door. "Just listen." She ignored him for days, but guilt grew like a bruise she couldn't hide. Neighbors started talking. Even the fruit seller downstairs began calling him the loyal ghost. He'd sleep by her door, leave when the sun got high, then return again the next morning. On the seventh day she opened the door. His face was gaunt, eyes sunken. "Why won't you stop?" she asked. "I can't," he said. "My heart doesn't understand. Go." That was when she knew the spell had never really ended. That night she sat on the floor, beads pressing into her waist like handcuffs. She thought of the woman she had been, the pride, the laughter, the boast that nothing was impossible. She wanted to laugh at herself, but tears came instead. When she finally cut the beads, the thread snapped with a faint hiss. The stones scattered across the tiles, each one cold as truth. Lekin, standing outside, gasped and clutched his chest as though something had been ripped from inside him. Then he turned and walked away without looking back. For a week she didn't see him. The silence was heavy but strangely peaceful. Then one humid afternoon Tola drove through Ikoyi. At a junction near the market, she spotted a thin man slumped by the road. His hair unkempt, clothes torn. She almost kept driving until recognition struck. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel. Lekin! She stopped, heart pounding. He turned slowly, disbelief flickering in his eyes. Tola, he said weakly. I just need water. She hesitated for a long moment, remembering every betrayal, every fever, every night she'd cried alone. Her friends' voices rang in her head. Don't ever go back. He'll destroy you again. But the man before her wasn't a destroyer anymore. He looked broken, smaller, human. She handed him a bottle of water. His hands trembled so badly she helped him hold it. He drank like someone learning thirst for the first time. Come with me, she said quietly. He froze. Why? Because forgiveness is easier under a roof. Her friends were furious when they heard. After everything he did to you, you'll take him back. It's your life, one spat. But don't cry to us when he ruins it again. Tola listened, said nothing. That night she sat by Lekin's bedside, watching him sleep on her couch. He looked peaceful, like a man who'd finally stopped running. For the first time in years, she prayed not for revenge, but for direction. Days turned into weeks. He didn't touch her, didn't ask for affection. He cleaned, helped in the kitchen, and went out searching for work every morning. Each evening he came home exhausted but grateful, always saying, "Thank you for not throwing me away." One night, when rain whispered against the windows, he knelt before her. "I'm not asking for your love," he said. "Only a chance to prove I can change." She looked at him for a long time. Change isn't proved by words, Lekin. It's lived. From then on he did. He took small jobs, painting, fixing roofs, washing cars. Little by little, the weight of his pride melted away. Tola watched silently as humility reshaped him into a man she barely recognized. Her friends still visited, still warned. "He's just acting," one said. "Men don't change," another added. But Tola had seen something they hadn't. The way he looked at her, not with lust, but with remorse. Not with ownership, but gratitude. One evening after dinner she finally spoke. "If we're really going to heal, we'll need help." He nodded immediately. "Therapy?" "Yes. Both of us." They began attending weekly sessions with a soft-spoken counselor in Yaba. The first few visits were awkward. Silence is heavier than words. But slowly, truth began to unclog years of bitterness. He admitted his addiction to validation, his fear of inadequacy, his emptiness that no woman could fill. She confessed how she had buried her self-worth under loyalty, how forgiving him was harder than leaving. Months passed. Forgiveness didn't come all at once. It arrived like morning light, slowly, persistently. By the time the counselor said they didn't need more sessions, Tola realized she could look at him without flinching. He found steady work again, this time with a construction firm, ironically rebuilding the kind of homes he once destroyed with his choices. Sometimes, while they sat on the balcony after supper, he'd take her hand and whisper, "Thank you for giving me a second chance." She would smile faintly. "It wasn't a second chance," she'd say. "It was the last." As for Catherine, the city forgot her name. Rumors said she left Lagos for good. But sometimes, on quiet mornings, Tola swore she could still hear a faint rattle of beads whenever forgiveness crossed her mind. It was a reminder that love without restraint is hunger, and control without heart is curse.